Welcome, everyone. How are you? This is Glenda Dawson, as you guys well know. And you're watching Glenda's Dragons Den. I have Haley Overseth here. How you
Hey
doing?
everybody. I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here and I'm so excited to learn more about our guest Leah. Hi, hello.
Ooh,
Hi, how are
well.
you? Hi.
Hi, Leah. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, perfect, perfect.
We're
Thank you
hanging
for
in there.
being
The
here.
energies are kind of crazy, y'all. Let's not pretend there's not a full moon be coming in and like she coming in hot, right? Like she coming in hot.
Yeah.
And we know that. But Leah, you can
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that, I bet. You can like help us
Yes.
all breathe a little bit easier. Tell us a little bit about you and then like how do we all try to process some of all these wild energies that be out and about?
Yeah. Well, it is. It's a wild time right now. It's not just the moon, but the moon is kind of adding her dose of specialness, isn't it?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, like, hi, thanks for the extra flavor.
yeah, but we love her.
We
Um,
do.
yeah. So I'm an author and a healer and
Mhm.
intuitive, and I do a lot of work with groups, with individuals, in my books, workshops, retreats, all that kind of stuff. I've been in the field of the healing arts for almost 30 years. Next year will be 30 years.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Congratulations. Oh,
thank
that's
you.
exciting. I
Yeah.
wouldn't, you and Glenda both, I tell you, I wouldn't guess. When you say you've been doing this for 30 years, I'd be like, are you sure? Like, okay, I'll believe you.
It's
Yep.
always healing because it goes through us and it, helps
Yeah,
them and helps us.
that's
So,
right. Yeah. I love what I
I
do.
love it.
Yeah.
so how did you get into this? I know that a lot of people ask you that, but I I go for a little more detail. I don't want to hear, okay, I've been doing it all my life. Like, what sparked your curiosity and your passion?
Well, I even when I was a young girl, I was highly interested in things like angels
Mhm.
and God and spirit and all of that. And also wellness in general, like just like physical wellness. That's all I knew when I was a little girl. And I guess truthfully, at one point I thought I would do something like be a rehab specialist or something like that. Because I knew I'd like to help people. And at that point, I was just into the body because, you're young and you're figuring out the body.
Right.
But eventually, it was through my challenges. I'm the wounded healer. It's, the Chiron energy. Um, it was just through overcoming my own traumas that I found my way to what was helpful to me, which was energy healing and meditation and understanding channeling and that kind of thing, and then started to apply that to other people. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in here. Tell me more about this Chiron wounded healer energy. Talk to me just a little bit more about that and what that
Well, a
is.
lot of healers, I believe, are people who have alchemized and kind of transcended a lot of their own pain. And the Chiron energy is that. It's the Phoenix rising kind of energy, but it doesn't come without um, its challenges. It's
Mhm.
challenging stuff. And so when we have Chiron in our placement or in the stars aligned in a certain way, there will be more attention to that, to our healing work, to our shadow work, to all of that. So I'm definitely come from that place.
Well, this is kind of interesting to me. So, like, I very much associate with what I would consider to be sort of like death energy, like in a sort of sense of like transformation, like death as being a transitional liminal space, like moving into the next phase, the
Yeah.
next life, right? So, like, and that's kind of where I've associated a lot of some like energy that I know that I can kind of channel and work with. But like, I'm interested in this kind of energy because it sounds very like they're sisters, right? Like they sound like they're very sort of parallel. So like I wonder if you guys can like maybe talk a little bit about what you might know about like any of the connections there, sort of energetically speaking.
You want to take it, Glenda, or you want me to?
No, go ahead. You're the guest.
um, well, yeah, similarities. I think the first thing that came up for me when you were sharing that is death has this kind of finite um, imagery to it or expectation to it
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. And the the healing, the transcending, the alchemizing, the evolving, all of that. It's kind of the procession, it's just, it never ends. And that's how they would differentiate, I guess, if you ask me. I think we're always kind of dying and we're always rebirthing. The focus can
Right.
be on one or the other. And if we look in the middle, it's just always evolving,
Flip side of the same coin, yin and yang sort of
Yeah,
thing.
but instead of being on either extreme, it's the wholeness. It's like it's like
Right. The combination of them, the gray that you get when the
yeah,
yin and yang spins.
yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. I'm about it. Very cool. See there. Sorry, that's where it's at. Where I say I just get real curious and I start asking
That's
questions.
good.
So, yeah, please do carry on more with more about you though.
Yes.
Here's a question I do have. Do you? I'm so sorry, Glenda. I know. So, would you have you had would you have had any maybe experiences as because you said as a young girl you had those interests? Did you have any experiences that as a kid you might for example, people say kids and imaginary friends, right? Well, your imaginary friends might be real. Those might be spirit guides that you're talking to, things like that. Were there things like that in your childhood that maybe as from where you are now in life and your journey, you can look back and say, "Oh, I thought that was this, but now I understand a deeper connection or a more profound what that actually was."
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think of one story or one experience that stands out. I didn't have imaginary friends. I just always felt very connected to the spirit world and my relationship to it. But I do have this one memory of I don't know how old I was, probably 5, 6, 7, something like that. And I woke up in the middle of the night because I was often scared to go to sleep. I was one of those kids, had to check the bed, had to have the closet light on and the closet door shut just
Mhm.
so, and not too much and not enough and all that. And I woke up in the middle of the night and all of that was off and gone. And I was like, oh my God, I'm scared. And so I jumped out of bed and I ran to knock on my parents' door, and their door was locked. And I was yelling for them and they didn't hear me. And down the hallway, my attention was drawn down the hallway and I saw this dark entity at the end of the hallway, and it was large and it scared the living crap out of me. And so then I ran back to my bed and I did the whole, get under the covers and pretend that you're dead so
Mhm.
that they don't kill you kind of thing. And I laid there for
Yeah.
hours, trying not to breathe so the covers wouldn't move. And then that entity, I felt it come sit on my bed. Whoops. Yep. See?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
That's just confirmation that the experience
Right.
was real is all that was. Thank you, universe, for the fun little things that are AI systems can
Yeah.
do. Fantastic. I love
So
it.
that thing came and sat on my bed, and it just sweat. I was under the covers, just sweating, just terrified, terrified. And I remember it kind of touching my back. And I laid there until I recognized the sun had come up. And when the sun had come up, this sounds like a cheesy end to a movie, but it's really what happened. I peeked out to make sure that thing was gone. And on the dresser in the corner, I saw this white bird, like a dove. And that experience scared me for years because I thought it was like this negative, monster being trying to get me, until I realized that I think that energy was there as a protector for me, and was there to help soothe me and calm me. And the bird was the symbol of peace and love and all of that. And so it's come to be one of my favorite memories, although it took me probably, I don't know, 35 years to understand it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. That's again kind of interesting. Makes me think of some experiences from when I was a kid. A lot of my things were more in the realm of
Mm.
dreams. It would kind of come to me as dream
Mhm.
experiences. And now where I'm at, I see them as like you say, that there were guides or protectors trying to speak to you or get your attention in some way, but you had a fear element there that made you perceive them you know, as a
Right.
monster, right? Like I had like I say reoccurring nightmares, but like they're reoccurring dreams, right? But up until my kind of spiritual awakening, I guess you would say, like saw them that way as like really very fearful reoccurring dreams that I was like, I would cyclically have, right? And now being on the side of, oh, like they were just trying to talk to me in like the best way that they could get to me, which was while I was sleeping.
Right. Yeah.
Now, did this experience has happened on the house? How old was the house?
Where I was living then, it wasn't that old. There were a couple of weird things that happened at the house,
Right.
but it was a relatively new house and just kind of a modest brick house. You know, when I say a couple things, I just remember like we got vandalized, like somebody put an X between me and my sister's bedroom windows on the brick, you know, stuff like that. But there, I never sensed any energy like that. I don't remember any other energy like that in the house. But maybe I
Okay.
wasn't aware of it. Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Well, I guess once
Very
that
interesting.
dove appeared, it was kind of like the symbol to say to you, "Don't worry, we got this." And you're not even going to see it again.
Right.
Which is probably what that was their sign.
Yeah.
Now you had your autobiography, right? You were living in a 200-year-old haunted house.
Oh, it's not. Well, it's part autobiography. I wrote a one-woman show
Okay.
that I just launched this summer about that, and
Mhm.
also wrote a movie script, which I'm need to start selling soon.
Say more about that. What? Hi, hello.
Yeah. Which part?
All of it. I love to hear that there's a movie script. I know I like, hey y'all, people on my LinkedIn who are out there in the film
Mhm.
industry and production folks, like come on over and talk to Leah. Tell me about
My
this.
LinkedIn too. So.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the day of COVID lockdown,
Mhm.
it wasn't because of COVID, but I had already made plans to buy this house, my first house, and I felt like very drawn to this house. And it was in old Rivertown, beautiful place, you know.
Mhm.
And I moved in the day of COVID lockdown, didn't know anyone in the area. And, you know, I was stuck here, like we were all stuck at home. And soon enough, a lot of weird stuff started happening. And then I started in my dream time kind of getting attacked. And then I confirmed with the previous owner, the woman, and she had the same experience for the first 9 months of her living in the house. And the story goes on. It's such a long story that I can't really go into it much, but I did do an audiobook. It's on my website. And so I ended up going to this public speaking school a couple of years after I moved in the house. I remodeled the house. I spent 2.5, 3 years healing the house and all the energies and the stories about it.
Right.
And then I went to this public speaking school, which just happened to be right across the street. And everyone else was writing keynotes to do these corporate presentations. And I ended up writing a one-woman show about a haunted house. And I launched it.
I love it. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and then I launched it this summer, and then it coincided with the writing of the screenplay last year. So, you know, the whole story is kind of about healing the ghosts of your past,
Right.
traumas and different things. Yeah. And so I kind of use the house as a mirror to deeper layers of healing for me. Yeah.
All right. Good.
I love that. That's beautiful. I can't wait to see that on
Me too.
Netflix and, you know, Amazon and all. I can't. I think there's a lot of people who need a lot of that energy right now, and the parallel of, and
Because
you know, things that are in the paranormal realm are really accessible right now to people. And if you can like parallel that to your own healing, I think that's something that people would find really like resonates with them and that they would be able to engage with really easily. Sorry, Glenda, go ahead.
There are a lot of people that go through things that don't want to talk about it because there was the stigma. So now it's a lot easier to talk about it. And now things like this, you know, screenplays, and hopefully it'll be a movie. Hear that, guys? Hopefully it'll be a movie.
Bringing it in, calling it in from the universe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it will, you know, it will help a lot more people. I have found that you know, you write something and you think it's really personal and you have trouble with it, you send it out, and it heals so many other people that it was all worth it. even
Yeah.
if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I want people to know about that. But
Mhm.
I find that those are the stories that live on, and those are the stories that really bring awakening and a full sense of healing to a lot of people. So I'm very happy that you decided to do that, especially living in an older house. A lot of people buy older houses, like myself. I love older houses. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Well,
mine.
well, and it's such a, it's an assist to the ascension of humanity in general to release those energies from the platonics of the planet,
Mhm.
right? Like, so there is a value, energetically, if you want to get in. And I don't know how far into any of that you delve with some of your work and the things you do. Maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about that with like your retreats and those
Good.
kind of things. Like, where how far into those kind of realms do you get with your work that you
Well, it
do?
depends on who I'm working with, from the broad span of like corporate groups to really, personal small groups. It really depends. But I go there myself a lot because I definitely believe, yes, in the healing in the dimension here, we're healing beyond us and behind us. And in fact, in the oneness and in all the timelines that don't exist, like it's all the same, right? So
Mhm.
everything that we put our energy towards and healing towards, it affects everything across
Yes, it
across
does.
right.
Across everywhere.
Across the board,
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
in including
mhm.
ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's where the parallel comes in. It's equally as important to heal your individual self as to, like, help those spaces that and those, really heavy energetic places to release
Yeah,
and
Mhm.
heal.
totally. Yeah. It was a very, like, I can't even really describe it because you go through different phases in your life and you think, oh, I've done all this healing work, or oh, I've had an awakening, or oh, I'm self-actualizing, or oh, this, that, what have you. And so I certainly had a lot of those experiences, and they just kind of keep getting more profound, I guess. And the
Mhm.
experience here was kind of like that. It was just like a real deepening, and it was beautiful. Yeah, but scary as hell.
Well, it always is,
Yeah.
isn't it? When you because, like, you remembering a lot more of who you are can be a scary thing because, we have a little bit of a tendency as humans to punish ourselves for all the multiple timelines that we have, for whatever reason, access or closeness to as an individual or as an energy
Right.
signature,
Mhm.
right? Fractal of all that is. And sometimes it is scary to kind of say, like, well, why am I able to tune into this energy? Like, what did I do? Or, like, you can become blameful of yourself in other timelines, right? Like, what did I do in another life to deserve this kind of thing, right? Like, and maybe you can talk a little bit. I don't know if if that's part of maybe some of the parallels that you've built into your screenplay or the healing that you've done, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that kind of the journey of releasing self-punishment.
I talk a lot about self-punishment, not usually in the language of like different timelines for most people, because I find most people are overwhelmed with just
Right.
the one timeline.
The one that you're in,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel that too. I
Yeah.
get it.
But I think it's the root of, so much of our suffering. We just keep perpetuating the punishment.
Right.
And
Right.
it's it's fascinating to witness in ourselves, and and then simultaneously we look at other people and go, why are you doing that? And yet we do it
Mhm.
every day. Most of us, we
Mhm.
sabotage or punish ourselves. And just to me, it's like a reflection of how deep and how just how how deeply we feel severed from source, and disconnected,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That's the sad part. It's sad. So coming from that place of compassion, it's like helping people remember that we are never disconnected. It's impossible to be disconnected, and that we don't have to
Mhm.
keep resisting and fighting the connection.
Right.
you know yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's important work.
Mm.
What I
Right.
mean, I was gonna well, I was just gonna
Go ahead.
go ahead. I got more questions
I
all the
know.
time.
I just want to hear about some
I
of her
do.
other books. It's,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm fascinated
the
by,
overcoming toxic emotions, and tell us
yes,
tell us a
like,
little bit about those.
Well, that
That's
was my last one, overcoming toxic emotions, and that's
right.
about how to have better relationships with yourself and others. But it really helps a person identify their core wound and the frequency that was established with those imprints when they
Right.
were a young being, and then how they continue to manifest and experience reality based off of those imprints. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of why I wrote
oh,
that book.
interesting.
Yeah. And, there's some information in there about boundaries and inner child work and self love and what have you. But
Mhm.
that's the gist of it. And the other books, one I did a spiritual journal. The publisher named it For Women, but it's for everyone. There's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
nothing in there that's gender related at all. So it's a spiritual journal. And the first one is The Fearless Path, which talks more about the energy systems, the 7 main chakras, and what we can expect to experience emotionally and physically when we're out of balance, either in the energetic system or in those other ways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like very good books. We need to-
No, I'm very, they might have said for women, but like everyone's got divine feminine energy in
yeah.
them, y'all. And we're trying to coming into that age of Aquarius time when we're bringing a little bit of that back, right?
Mhm.
Like, let's balance this out a little bit more here, y'all. And maybe we can talk just a little bit about that from, the perspective of, Glenda and Leah, both of you've been doing this for a long time
Oh,
in the energy
I
world, right?
I give it to the guest
And
for now.
What'd you say?
I'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm lost to what the question is. Sorry.
well, I just like the switch over here that we're experiencing a little bit to like in allowing more of that divine feminine energy
Mhm.
to have a safe space,
Yeah.
right? Like that's may not feel that way to a
I
lot
was
of
going to
us
say, are we? But
currently.
are we?
Yeah.
So uh, when we understand the polarity and can really make space for that,
Mm.
um, it solves a
Mhm.
lot of problems internally, the inner conflict, that no matter what the polarity is, it is there. It will always be there. And we don't like it a lot of times, half the time we don't like it. And half the
Yeah.
time we do. Uh,
Because that's the human polarity of like
exactly.
sometimes it's a fun ride and sometimes I want off this
Right,
thing.
Mhm.
exactly. So, yes, we are bringing that in. It's been in before, if we look back in history and art and music and beauty and sculpture and wisdom and intuition, it's been there before. It's not like we're finally ushering this in for the first time. It's
Right.
just we're trying to change the paradigm about, well, we all know, the patriarchy and so forth.
Mhm.
And some of the ways that we're doing it, honestly, if you ask me, are totally unhealthy. We're not doing a good job of it.
No,
Yeah.
Right.
So
I agree. Like I've tuned out of the news and the activism side of things because it is just too much of that digging your heels into a bad
mm,
energy, right? Like it's you I have always been of the mind that you have to create the new that makes the old obsolete. Like you can't keep trying to like make this better. You just got to build the thing that is better
well,
and be like,
right.
"No, look, we can do this
The way to
instead."
healing isn't to wound the other, So right.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're seeing a lot of, and it's unfortunate. So are we
Mhm.
there? No, we're not there at all. But people in their very clunky kind of attempts are trying. So
They're
they're
trying.
they're trying.
yeah.
That's for sure.
They're trying. I mean, some of I think though what's coming up just in our collective human experience, shall we
Mhm.
say, it's a bit and I guess maybe give me your perspectives on this. But it seems a bit like it is a bringing things to the light so they can be healed. Like you have to see the worst of it to know what the worst of it is that needs the healing, right? Like I don't want to be looking at the icky festering wounds either. I don't got stomach for that, y'all. But that's why we got nurses in this world, right? So that's where the healer element and energy has to come in there and kind of look at those. Like, yeah, this looks real bad on the outside, but maybe we needed to see that there was some gangrene in there.
Mhm.
Well,
You know.
it's very hard to bring all that out all at once. And it seems like it's all
Mhm.
coming out all at once. Now, you help people heal from emotional addiction, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how about that. Tell us how you know, what exactly is that, and tell us a little bit about it, how to heal it, and
Well, it's actually my next book. So
oh, okay,
there'll
okay.
be a lot of information coming out about that, hopefully next year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I go into it a little bit in overcoming toxic emotions,
Right.
but the baseline information, I guess, is that many of us are addicted to frequency state. We are addicted in our neural pathways, but we're also addicted in our energetic state, even for those who don't understand energy.
Mhm.
And so that's part of that whole cycle of the punishment that we, even when we're saying we want to feel better or we want something different for ourselves, the reality is most people are addicted to pain, and
Mhm.
so we keep seeking experiences that set us up to have that hit of pain. And so we talk about, like, we were just discussing about this polarity and so forth. I mean,
Mhm.
it's easy to look at the world and go, oh my God, that's so terrible. Oh, these people are so great and they're doing such wonderful things. And we don't like to witness the ugly things that
Right.
you mentioned. But we have to look at, like, that stuff's all going on within us. You know, the
Right.
wars that we are witnessing, that same war is going within. The famine that we are experiencing, we are starving ourselves.
Mhm.
We're punishing ourselves. We're divisive within ourselves. We are judgmental within ourselves. We are all the things that we see externally, they're just happening within as well. And that is the reflection of reality.
Right.
So I'm really excited to write this next book, and I hope you guys will have me back on or read
Oh,
it, or
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. I could see your passion in it, like your energy just changed
Mhm. Mm.
completely. So,
Mhm.
and you could look her up on Amazon, guys. So the link is right on the screen and is also in the description. So,
Go hit her up. I'm so excited. I'm gonna have to go buy some of those books myself because it's such a true thing, and I have talked about it. I think before on some of like my other podcasts, and Glenda, I think we've had these conversations too. That to a certain degree, we are trained as a society to be addicted to pain and to the cortisol hits as much as the dopamine hits, right? You watch a 24-hour news show and the lighting and the sound and the colors that they use in the banners, like it's all meant to like build a certain atmosphere to amp you up every bit as much as a movie or a TV show is built to create a certain emotion
mhm.
in you, right? And people get addicted to that, and it blows up in our political sphere. It does, right? But it's that we've been trained to be so familiar with that, like going after that, like you're saying, that cortisol, that fear, that pain, that it's a twisted addiction that we didn't mean to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is cortisol, and it's a lot of things that we get addicted to, for sure. Yeah. And I don't think we ever that's what's hard about life. We didn't plan to have a lot of it, and here we
Right.
are. So it's
Right.
challenging. Yeah, challenging stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
But speaking
hopefully
of which, what time zone are you guys on? I'm not aware.
Eastern.
Eastern?
Hmm.
Oh,
Oh, I'm in Central myself, but yeah.
so why did you decide to have your podcast at this hour?
Because I could reach the other side 6 o'clock.
I see. Okay.
So that this way
Balancing
the
it out.
the whole country has a chance to really see it live.
I see.
Uh,
Okay. I was just
and,
curious. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, I know. When I
I love
when
it.
I picked it up, I picked this time zone. I could see people going like, "Why?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
worry about
Believe me,
it.
if I can stay awake till then, you guys can stay awake till then.
Yeah.
If you guys, yeah, we're up. We're all up at the witching hour watching the moon, just being like, "Hey, sis, what's going on?"
Yeah. I've totally changed all that for myself. I go to bed now early. I wake up with or before the sun. Yeah. So
Mhm.
talking about the cortisol hit, it's like,
Right,
yeah.
right, exactly. No, I usually have a time that I go to bed, but for nights like this, or if I'm teaching a class or something, then of course
Yeah.
that accommodate the schedule. But
Right. Yeah.
a bedtime rituals, what I call it.
Nice.
At a certain time, and then get up in the morning by a certain time.
Yeah.
Although I'm not a morning person, so. mm,
Not everybody is. We can't all be morning people, right? You got to have somebody watching the gates at all hours. So that's why you got the night owls and the morning people. And,
mhm.
those midday, like from brunch to midday folks, like that's me. I'm holding down the 10 to 2 p.m. You guys, I got it. That's where I'm at. That's my power schedule right there.
Oh, right.
Oh, funny.
So tell us about the podcast that you
Yes.
were on.
The one I host.
Yes, the one you host.
Yeah. It's called the Modern Sage Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting season 6 in just a
Nice.
couple weeks. Yeah. So it's sometimes I feature, experts and authors and people and so forth. And sometimes I do solo shows and I just let it be very guided as far as the topics when I do solo shows. And also in that podcast, I told quite a bit of the story of the house experience there
Mm-hmm.
from the notes that I had collected over the years. So yeah, it's a beautiful place to, as you all know, to share and um, yeah, I
And
love the
just
podcast.
be, and just be, right?
Yeah.
That's the good thing about it, because you get to. Sometimes when you do a show by yourself, you're inspired. You say things you were like, "What? What am I saying?" But it needed to be said because
Yeah.
somebody in your audience needed to hear at that moment what you went through, or even what your experience, not just your experience, but your expertise in that moment. So
Yeah.
I love when when that happens. I don't do it too often because I would like to bring other people's experiences into my show.
Mm.
So then everybody can see that there's a difference. And even though there is a difference, it's also basically the same thing. We all go through things, bring it out to the surface, so then we could heal from them,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
have the opportunity to heal, I should say, because some people don't heal. They just keep repeating. So, and that's where the vicious cycle begins.
Yeah, and maybe talk a little bit about that because I know that's kind of part of what you talk about. Again, that idea of kind of flipping the cycle and getting yourself to where your forward momentum is, toward where you want to be going, and not because there is, I think, a little bit the paradigm too for folks where like doing the shadow work can sometimes become in itself its own like addiction, and like like now you're just looking for problems or looking for the pain, right? Like, so how do you like find a balance of, yeah, there are these traumas or there are these things to deal with, but not sort of being able to review them as maybe from a death review perspective, right? Without the emotional attachment, having that unconditional space where you can sort of review your past, if you will, to be able to look at it and heal from it enough that you can focus more of your energy in a forward momentum for
Mhm.
yourself.
Well, I think the best path to both of those things is learning to be very present. Because when
Mhm.
you're present most of the time, there's nothing wrong.
Is it, and does like it seems so oversimplified to those of us who like to overthink
Yeah, I know.
everything.
But that's it. I mean, um, we don't even need to position ourselves to forward thinking, because we're in it. So when you're in it and nothing's wrong, then there's nothing wrong. It's the acceptance of like finding comfort in that surrender and the just being. It's challenging for a lot of people to retrain themselves to just stay with themselves right now, just stay with this. And especially for people who, I think a lot of our society is hooked into the whole anxiety, the anxiety culture, and we perpetuate that, of course. And when people come to me with that, I have anxiety this, I have anxiety this, and I'll be the first to admit I had anxiety severely for years, until I didn't. And my first question is, are you anxious right now?
Mhm.
And they'll say, well, maybe they'll say yes. And they'll say, okay, so if you're anxious right now, then why don't we work with that and get the body out of that state and get the mind out of that state? And most of the time, though, they say, no, I'm not anxious right now. And then I say, well, then there's no anxiety problem. Right. So, right. Yeah. It's amazing how we perpetuate these things just endlessly with money, with love, with health, with, it's not even necessarily the fear. I mean, sometimes it is the fear of these things, but it's just this attachment to the thing that we don't want and being in that instead of in something else. And that's where we always have a choice every second, So it is simple, but it's not easy. Is that what the phrase is?
It's simple, but it's not
Yeah.
easy. And don't we like everybody wants that easy button. We all just want to hit the easy
Yeah,
button.
I know. I know. I do too sometimes. I mean, it's just, I remember at one point I was having, because have been going through, well, now I'm in postmenopause, but I was going through like perimenopause and menopause, and it's like, oh my God, what can I do? Because you try everything. It's like, how do I get better sleep? These hot flashes, like there's such conflict. And what I just needed to really do was learn how to support my body. What does my body need? How do I need to be nurtured differently now? When I reduce the war within, then things start to find their natural balance alignment. Is it perfect? No, but the sleep is better. The eating is better. The stress is better. The hot flashes are better. It's all more aligned with the natural state of things versus buying into the system of how it should be, right? So it's that way with everything. I have to watch myself a lot too. It's not just what we say, but just recognizing what we say, how that in and of itself perpetuates the thing, even if we don't believe it. Like I'll get into saying something about like, I don't make a lot of money or something. Like, where does that even come from? Like, first of all, why is that a factor? Two, relative to what, and it's like that kind of, it's just habit in a certain way, but that habit is attached to something, and often, like we're talking about earlier, it's like attached to my family's belief or my father's limitations or what I thought when I was 20 or, whatever the storyline is. But yeah, we can change that story like that.
Well, and that's one of my favorite Alan Watts, the things that he would, say, you're under no obligation to be the person that you were 5 minutes ago. Right. Yeah. And you're not. And that means your belief structures too. You're under no obligation to behold yourself to the belief structures that you had even 5 seconds ago. Like you can let those go too. And it's it's a simple concept, right? But we have such attachment to our identity as being
It's
that
because
storyline.
because we're all running off of our subconscious and we're not even conscious. So that's why I keep coming back to just, the present moment, the consciousness. That's where it all is, because if you have to learn to identify yourself in a conscious state. Otherwise, your subconscious will continue to try to inform you that you need to be thinking, doing, feeling like this in order to be Leah Guy, right? And so if I am not doing and thinking and feeling that way that Leah Guy used to think yesterday or 10 minutes ago or what have you, then the fear wells up, especially if there's still an unhealed or unattended to worth wound. And then Leah Guy doesn't know how to be without that previously informed self. So that's the work of staying conscious, even if it's just 1 second at a time. I'm here. Who am I? What am I? How am I? How's this moment? What is happening here? Right. And then I have an opportunity to inform the subconscious mind instead of vice versa. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the neat trick that everybody's trying to learn to do, isn't it? Like, hey, subconscious, you're like, we're going to train you like a dog. Yeah, that kind of thing. I think that's a little bit right. Or that's Glenda. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like a little bit the paradigm that I think people are facing. So,
people like to beat up themselves up continuously, even
right.
if they learn how they take all these courses or whatever, and they like, oh yes, I'm self-love, yes, self-love, and then 2 minutes later they're hating on how they look, or they're hating on what they can do, or, oh, I can't open this jar today. Well, you were older than you were when you were 20. Your muscles work differently, so you got to adjust. Love how you are. Love yourself how you are at that very moment, and you'll be able to expand and heal a lot more. It's like Leah said, in the present, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Because
what does the me of the now need? That kind of thing, right? And so if you were going to kind of maybe direct people and like give them some quick tips, or like where would you start for folks, like, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this and some of maybe the work you do, like someone maybe coming into it who isn't necessarily familiar with energy work or that kind of shadow work stuff. Where would you start someone off in this sort of self-love, being patient with yourself kind of journey?
Well, again, I think it kind of depends on the person, but I would say a few things. Don't go to energy work as a quick fix or energy work exclusively. And when you do energy work, make sure you're working with a very highly tuned person. I would say to learn to trust yourself is a foundational piece. And without that, there's not a lot we can get accomplished, really. And to learn how to reparent ourselves, for sure. To not go into any relationships expecting someone else to make you feel any certain way, especially better about yourself. Those are a few things.
Those are a few things. It's a starter list. I love it. That's a pretty good checklist to start with.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things, it all works together, right? So, yeah. But also, I guess I would say one of the big ones for me that I think a lot of healers kind of overlook, unless you're in physical healing work, is finding balance in the body. If our body is our biggest distraction, it's also our largest instrument. It houses our most precious gift. And so we're not going to be perfect with it, but if there's extremes, if the body is, insulin resistant, if the body is fatigued, if the body is addicted, all the things, like bringing that into balance and getting grounded and being able to stay embodied is primary, doing much any other depth, right?
Very well said. Very well said. And the funny thing is, I have a lot of people coming through here, but I could see your passion when you talk about all this. It's like it really comes out. So I am very blessed to know you, to have you here, and also grateful because you're one of the souls that has stepped up to do this kind of stuff. So it's very nice. So what else can you tell us that brought you to here, exactly where you are now? Because you said 30 years, 35 years, whatever. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it. I know. I mean, it was kind of a progression, like everything is, and an evolution. I was, started with very, like I said, it's kind of started in the physical also for me as a massage therapist, as a meditator, learning about the mind-body connection, learning about energy, all that. And that was 30 years ago. And I think that, I don't know, I guess for me, like the work, it just keeps expanding. I think of it just continuing to expand and deepen. I don't think of, although I love those moments where I feel, very awake and awakened and so forth. I'm not trying to be something else. I would love to have a fully enlightened experience before I die, sure. But I love meeting people where they are and seeing them. And I think so many people don't feel seen. And so that's why my work, like in my books and my one-woman show, and I've done TV shows, I've done podcasts, all that. I try to reveal a lot of my stories, not for the sake of it being about me, but just so people can see themselves in me and feel safe, because I do know that when we share, it allows other people to feel more confident in sharing, So it's just always been, even when I tried to stop, there was a couple years I'm like, okay. And I went and did a TV celebrity show for a couple of years. And I was like, I need a break. I can't do it anymore. And then I was doing the TV show. I was like, oh my God, this is so boring. Like, what, oh. And so then I'm back at it. And I've just been really blessed over the 30 years to always have clients, and always be asked to present or speak and so forth. And so and I think that's part of, confirmation, validation for us of, it's not a lot of efforting. It's just showing up and saying yes to what we're here for.
Exactly. And, like you said, it's evolving. It's taking shape as it's necessary, basically. And you yourself are evolving, and you're healing more each time and each turn. So that's why your work gets more intense, more deep.
Yeah, but I'm actually feeling, and I think this isn't just for me, I think it's for people at large. This, where I'm shifting to is more of the creative expression, because by and large, I feel like an artist. I mean, I am an artist. I'm a musician. I'm a speaker.
I saw the piano in the back.
Yeah,
I love
I'm a
it.
painter, So I think it's not that I'm burnt out with clients and their issues and so forth, because that's my love. And I mean, that's, home. But I really am getting excited about working with people in a different way and inspiring. I think even though what I do, is an intuitive and so forth for people, they love that. But by and large, I think we can glean just as much inspiration from people of how they live. And that's kind of the consistent feedback that I've heard. So I'm excited to bring more of that. I don't know how it's going to look yet. I got to write this book.
Well, I love it though. That's exactly where, I feel like a lot of us are in our journey. I resonate with that very deeply. Like, I do my intuitive art and stuff like that. And it's, you can, just like you're saying, you can heal through creativity and fun. Right. Like, and that's, I think, where a lot of people want to be shifting, and certainly something that, like, that's what I'm exploring. How do you follow a flow of creativity that allows you to heal in a way that doesn't have to be like, going to the gym to work out versus going out and being in nature, right? Like, you can add things into your life that build in the things that will help you to be fit, that don't like require you to do the gym punishment, like, routine thing, right? Like, it's finding that more natural balance of being in your most authentic creative self, and those things that you create through that and the collaborations you do through that, being able to, like, really have a healing effect on you and the others that you're working with collectively through something that is a lot more of a joyful expression, right?
Yeah, I think the challenge there for most people is that people feel like they have to be inspired or good to create. And I think it's the exact opposite. You know, if you don't live near the woods and all you have is a gym, get to the gym. You know, if you have the woods and that resonates more with you, or you can get there, do that. But go somewhere, you know, if you
We'll go where resonates with
right,
you.
right. But for some people, they would say, well, I only resonate, you know, at the beach, and they live, you know, 6 hours from the beach. So they're not going to drive 6 hours every day to the beach. And for whatever reason, they haven't moved to the beach, you know? And so we have to own the choices that we make, but we have to keep showing up, you know. An artist doesn't feel like painting every day. Most people, most of them don't, you know. A musician doesn't feel like playing music every day. A chef doesn't feel like cooking 3 meals a day. But you show up, and when you show up, you get inspired then.
Right.
You don't wait to get inspired and then show up. And that's the same with healing. It's like, who wants to do healing work? But we show up, you know. So you paint angry, you know, you fucking throw your stuff in the river and just who
Start
cares?
again. Start again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or sell it for $1 million. Who knows? But
Right.
it's got to come out, you know, it's got to come out. So
Right. Yeah.
freeing the expression is that's the
And
goal.
like
Freeing the expression.
like you,
I love
I'm
that.
also a piano player.
Oh, nice.
But although I did do concerts and all that in New York and big places, I have toned it down, children and all that other stuff. But it's like my escape. I go there and I just start playing any keys, and then I'm like, okay, there it is, and I tune out, and that's like, since I can't get to the beach. I don't live quite 6 hours away.
Yeah.
But about 2.5. So I'm not getting there every day. But
Yeah.
that's like my escape. And I think everyone needs a little place where they could feel at home and just be. And then you could pick up and do everything else that you need to do. Now you said you're a musician, you do art. Do you do art to show to the public, or do you just do art for yourself?
Both. Yeah. I've done some shows and I have some pieces on my site, but mostly it's, you know, I kind of go through different, like sometimes I play the piano a lot and sometimes I'll go like 2 years and not touch the key. But I did play part of a song in my one woman show and I sang, you know, but I don't sing. Like I don't identify with anything. I'm not good with labels that way. But like art too. I used to get really hard on myself. I was like, why are you not committed enough to one thing? You know, what if you focused and channeled all this energy towards just painting or towards just music or towards just TV or whatever? But then I realized I am the you know, I go from treetop to treetop and nurture, you know, and I pollinate that way. And so I have to stay loose with it. And, you know, so I do it sometimes for myself. Sometimes I sell, sometimes I play, sometimes I don't, sometimes I, you know.
It's that you, again, going with the flow of what in the moment inspires you the most, right? And we're all multidimensional and multifaceted individuals. You don't have just one thing that you're good at or have, you know, a talent or skill for or a capacity to express or have something to offer. You don't have to stick with just one thing. And it's okay to bounce around and explore different things.
I think a lot of people are hard on themselves, though. I keep, you know, I know a lot of people are like, well, I tried this, but I didn't really like it. Or, you know, and they're saying it in this tone, like they're disappointed in themselves. And I'm always like, oh, that's awesome. You know, go take this class, try this. You know, we're here to explore and to live. We don't have to hang on to everything. I mean, as we know, most spiritual teachings are like, you know, don't. In fact, don't attack, right? So just let yourself, you know, let yourself live, let yourself learn how to feel good. Some basic things, let yourself
Give yourself permission to feel
yeah.
good. Like, there might be shadow work to do, but that doesn't mean we don't all deserve to feel good and feel happy and loved in whatever situation you might be in, right? So that's a great takeaway for everybody in the times that we find ourselves in, I think. Yes, absolutely.
So we have approximately 4 or 5 minutes to go. Is there anything you want to tell our audience that you want to leave them with that you haven't mentioned yet?
It's always such a big question. I don't know. I don't know what we've said. I don't know what I've said in the past hour.
Well, because it's all just channeled wonderful inspiration and we love it. Do you want to direct anyone to like any particular project you're working on? Or obviously we've got your links down in the description.
Yeah.
Check out leahguy.com, you guys. But any other places or particulars you want to direct
Social
people to?
media at Leah the Modern Sage would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then, I got all the links down in the description, so they should find you. Should be absolutely no excuse for that now.
Yeah.
I love it. And excited to see the next book come out. And everybody be watching for that and check out the books already too. It's again a lot of rabbit holes to go down, but all good ones, right?
Thanks for sharing that with people. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for being here, and we'll definitely have you back. So you got to get in touch with us. Thank you for all that that you do. Really,
Well, thank you too. Yeah.
Definitely, because people like you are what keeps us all going, right? Want to say thank you to Haley and thank you to the audience for being here. Remember to like,
Thanks everybody for popping in. Yes.
subscribe, share, so others can also see this and heal and find Leah and get themselves on the right track. And as always, we love you. We send blessings. And thank you. Bye.
Thank you everyone so much
Thank
for
you,
joining us.
Leah.
Thank you, Leah. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us for a second. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.